what they lead to. Never in our lifetime have we gone into a State of the Union where the president's rhetoric and the country's reality are so far apart. Donald Trump's first year back in office can be boiled down to three words: costs, chaos, corruption. That's the slogan of Trump 2.0: costs, chaos, corruption. That's what his administration brings to the American people. Let's start with costs. Americans frankly don't care what Trump has to say at the State of the Union because they're too worried about the state of their wallets. They're worried about the state of their rent, the state of their energy bills, the state of their health care costs. Democrats offer something different, a future with lower costs, and it's why a few weeks ago we rolled out a housing agenda to help people afford a home and rent, why very soon, led by Ben Ray Lujan, why in a few weeks, led by Ben Ray Lujan, we're going to talk about food costs, especially the price of beef, and Democrats will release new plans in the weeks and months to come to lower the cost of child care, health care, energy, and so much more. Americans are tired of the chaos. They're tired of masked agents barging into people's homes without warrants. That's not law and order. That's chaos. The American people see it. But sadly, the chaos does not end there. Look at the mess Donald Trump has created with his tariffs. He said, "The hell with you," and doubled down on his tariffs after the Supreme Court struck him down. The hell with the American people and their costs. He had a moment to escape this noose around his neck, the tariffs he proposed, but he doubled down and went right back at him. And finally, we've never had a president as corrupt and as crooked as Trump. While people are paying more for rent and losing insurance, Trump's net worth has soared by at least $1 billion since becoming president. He wants to make himself the richest man in America, and it's with your money, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer. That's how he's doing it. We won't get any answers to these things. And one more aspect of corruption. While he'll talk for a long time tonight, we know there's one topic Trump will avoid. When will he finally release all the Epstein files? Another example of the corruption of this administration. Democrats offer Americans something better, a future with lower costs and greater optimism. And finally, I want to thank my good friend Senator Padilla, who will offer a Spanish response to the State of the Union. Senator Padilla is going to tell Americans the story they deserve to hear, one of hope, one of opportunity, where we celebrate the values that make us great. Donald Trump's not focused on tackling costs. He and his cronies seem to be more focused on tackling senators. Instead of driving down costs, he's driving over people's pocketbooks. So tonight, Americans aren't going to get the real State of the Union. Those days are long gone under Trump. What Americans will get is a state of deception, a state of denial. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck. It has truly been a year since Donald Trump has come in. I think we all feel like it's been a lot longer than that. As Chuck noted, costs are up, chaos is up, corruption is up. No one maybe understands that more than our state in the last few months. He has spent his first year in office dividing people, catering to the wealthy and making life harder for everyone else, pitting neighbors against each other by unleashing thousands of untrained, unaccountable, masked ICE agents in the towns, in the streets of Minnesota, creating two justice systems, one for those who can pay to play and one for those who can't. We've seen this firsthand. That Hmong elder that got dragged out of his house after his door got rammed through, what was he supposed to do at that moment? They throw him in a car in his underwear and they found out they get the wrong guy after driving him around for an hour. Or the small business owners hit by these tariffs. My guest to the State of the Union tonight is a brewer from Moorhead, Minnesota, right up near the Canadian border. He's been walloped by these tariffs, walloped, and can barely stay in business. Those are the people that are having to be the roadkill for all of these policies that really don't put the American people first. They put Donald Trump first. Trump knows his agenda is unpopular. That's why I am sure he'll go there with much bluster tonight to the House floor. But what I know is that he's afraid of four things. Number one, he's afraid of the voters. He's afraid of the voters in the midterms. Look at what's happened in these elections, whether it's the Virginia's governor's race, whether it's the legislative race in Texas, whether it's mayor's races from Miami to Omaha. Number two, he's afraid of the word affordability. He's called it a hoax and actually said he wanted to keep housing prices up. Number three, and I didn't see this one coming, it's not on my Wordle guest list, but he is afraid of the word court, C-O-U-R-T, the Supreme Court. And I will note, I didn't think that I'd have the hottest ticket in town, but sitting behind the Supreme Court while Donald Trump looks down on them will be interesting tonight. Number four, he's afraid of the people of Minnesota. Why? Because like so many people across this country, they stood up 50,000 strong in a peaceful march in below zero weather. They stood up and helped strangers get food and help their neighbors and help kids get to school. So while he enriches himself at Americans' expense, and the Republicans, sadly, in Congress rubber stamp his divisive agenda, Democrats are fighting to bring down costs, end the chaos, and fight corruption.
Senator Padilla.
Thank you, Senator Schumer, colleagues. Thank you all for being here. Don't want to be too repetitive, but I will add a few dimensions to it I think we can all expect to hear tonight. I have a slightly different way of looking at it. I think we're going to hear two different States of the Union. One from the president that's going to be full of lies for sure, and deceptions and distractions and trying to point fingers and blame others for his failures. And they're going to hear the truth. Governor Spanberger's doing a response to the State of the Union after we hear from President Trump, and I'm honored. Thank you, Senator Schumer, for allowing me to also respond to the State of the Union in Spanish. Similar themes that I'm going to be touching upon. Number one, the increased costs, the affordability crunch. And we've seen for the last 13 months under Donald Trump, a Republican majority and a White House working together to put billionaires first at the expense of working families. Working families are the ones that are dealing with these higher prices, small business owners dealing with the impact of the tariffs, which we knew were unlawful from the beginning, and the Supreme Court finally made that official last Friday. We're dealing with a president and a Republican majority in Congress that is increasing our healthcare costs, making healthcare either more expensive or too expensive, all to underwrite tax breaks for billionaires. Democrats have a better way. We will work to bring down everyday costs for working families. I can't ignore what's happening, not just Minnesota. It started in my hometown of Los Angeles, and it's reached every corner of the country. Out of control, ICE, CBP, and other federal agents violating constitutional rights each and every day through their mass deportation agenda, trying to achieve some false quotas by Stephen Miller. This is not a focus on the worst of the worst. This is not a focus on dangerous, violent criminals. The vast majority of the people that have been detained, arrested, many deported without due process, do not have criminal convictions. They've rounded up even legal immigrants. They've rounded up even United States citizens and veterans. This is chaos. This is terror meant to distract from the failed economic agenda and more, and we will call it out. A third area that I'm going to touch on tonight, because we can't ignore it, is not just our democracy broadly, but elections. The Trump administration is not being shy about threatening to undermine and steal this November elections. They know that their record is not just unpopular, but has been so harmful to working families that their only hope to stay in power is to initiate a voter purge. That's why the Department of Justice has been weaponized to try to get their hands on voter files from states across the country. That's why Secretary Noem was in Arizona last week, saying that their goal is to make sure that the, quote, the right people vote. And that's why through failed executive orders and very bad legislation known as the Save America Act, they're trying to make it harder for eligible Americans to register to vote and actually cast their ballot. And so we will come away from tonight with both a call to action, making sure people start today preparing to exercise their right to vote this November, because that is how we will realize real change and hold this administration accountable, but also remind people that we've been through dark chapters in our nation's history. And we've always come out of these dark periods into brighter days. It's up to the people to make it so. When I returned from the Homeland Security press conference experience back in June of last year from Los Angeles, that's one of the things that I shared with my colleagues. Only we can save ourselves. Nobody's coming to rescue us. Only Americans will save America. And that will be the contrast to the lies and deceptions of President Trump tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Padilla. We know you're going to knock them dead tonight. Senator Durbin.
Thanks, Chuck. If grandstanding paid for groceries, the American people would see the president ride to their rescue tonight. But it doesn't work that way. We know what's going to happen. The president's going to deliver empty platitudes about the success of his first year back in office, but the American people will not be fooled. Seen the poll numbers lately? 60% of Americans disapprove of Trump's performance. 47% strongly disapprove, according to the new post-ABC Ipsos poll. That's because Americans know who cut $1 trillion out of Medicaid, who eliminated the Affordable Care Act's enhanced premium tax credits, who alienated our closest allies abroad, who unleashed a chaotic tariff trade policy. That man would be the president of the United States. America knows that it's Trump's militarized federal immigration agents who are sowing fear in Chicago, Minneapolis, and cities across the country, and killing innocent people in the process. Friday, I was back in Chicago, and I went to Norridge, Illinois, a suburb of the city. I was there with Ruben Torres. It was the saddest day of his life. It was the memorial service for his daughter, a 16-year-old who died of brain cancer. Not that many months before, Ruben had been at the Home Depot parking lot looking for odd jobs. The ICE agents descended upon him, broke his window of his car, arrested him. He begged them to let him go home. His daughter, 16-year-old daughter, had just returned from the hospital with brain cancer. He wanted to be with her, and he promised to bring her some food. They said no. They shipped him away for 2 weeks before they dropped all charges against him. That Friday, in that chapel, we laid to rest his beautiful daughter. She lived just long enough to see the court rule in her father's favor that he can stay in the United States. That is part of the policy of Donald Trump. He says he's going after the worst of the worst, the terrorists, the murderers, the rapists, the criminally insane. Ruben Torres was none of those things, and yet he suffered a loss at a time in his family that he'll never forget. All Americans know that shouting weaponization and witch hunt for years, Trump has orchestrated a weaponized Justice Department to protect himself and his cronies. In America's 250th year, our democracy is facing a test under this president, but Senate Democrats are fighting to bring down costs in the chaos and fight corruption.
Thank you, Dick. Next, we have Senator Kelly.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to be brief. In 1 year, Donald Trump has made the American people poorer and less safe. Half of Americans are having a hard time affording food. To give a big, giant tax cut to the wealthiest Americans, Donald Trump, in a year, is kicking hundreds of thousands, if not more than 1 million people off of their health care. Young people can't afford a place to live. My constituents in Arizona are really struggling. They're much worse off today than they were a year ago. And this president is focused on making himself wealthier. Right before I came over here, I had Fox News on. Yes, I do watch Fox News sometimes, along with everything else. And he was selling crappy watches. You know, this president sells to his supporters bad tennis shoes, bad meat, wine, watches, meme coins, other crypto, all to make himself and his family and his friends wealthier at the expense of his supporters and the American people. And it's wrong. I understand some of my colleagues are not going to be there tonight, and I totally understand that. For me personally, I'm going to be sitting there in the House to make a point to this president who about 3 weeks ago tried to indict me and send me to jail for something I said, something that he didn't like. He and Pete Hegseth are trying to prosecute me. In the case of the Department of Defense, trying to reduce me in rank and take away some of my pension. So I will be sitting there to make sure that he knows that so far he has failed and that the American people are really not into this. He's violated my constitutional rights. He's violated the constitutional rights of thousands of people across the country, especially when you consider the folks in Los Angeles and Minnesota. We've got 2 dead Americans, scores of other beaten up by federal agents or poorly trained and not following any kind of standards of procedures for law enforcement. I'm the son of 2 police officers. I know it's a hard job, but what these folks are doing in Minnesota is wrong, and I think in some cases it's criminal. They're going into people's houses without warrants. This agency is out of control and needs to be overhauled. I was in Munich last week. I think to say there is a profound loss of trust in the United States is, I think, even really comes up short of what our relationship is now with most of our allies. And I got to say, if you're Greenland, you're now afraid of us. It's going to take generations to repair the damage that this president did in just 1 year. So I'm not looking forward to this speech. You know, I expect the president to not be straight with the American people and to not have an explanation to them about why they are poorer and less safe. But I'll be in that chamber tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lujan.
Everyone, thank y'all for being here. Look, when you all are at the grocery store, just like people all over the country, you know if food is more expensive or if it's not. And the reason I say that is, as Senator Klobuchar reminded us moments ago, President Trump keeps calling all of this a hoax. The notion that food is more expensive, that everything President Trump promised would be less expensive is now more expensive. And all he's doing is putting more and more dollars in his own pocket. What Donald Trump's doing is just making life harder for each and every one of you, for each and every one of the people across America, for each and every one of us. His administration cut food assistance at a level that we've never even imagined could occur. Grocery prices remain high, forcing seniors, veterans, families, moms and dads, grandma, grandpas, and kids to simply pay more for less. All of this, well, we've heard time and time again, and we see it. All he's doing is finding ways to make himself richer. Take $1 from the American people, put it in his pocket. That's all he cares about. As every one of my colleagues has reminded us here today, as well as Leader Schumer, look, it just comes down to this. Costs, chaos, and corruption, one after another. Pick an issue. Pick a day. Pick an hour of the day. I mean, heck, even pick a time of the day when the president can't sleep and decides to go to social media and tell the American people how he's lining his own pockets, how he's creating more chaos, and he's not shy about the corruption. He just says he's going to do it. One lie after another. And that's what we're going to hear tonight. One lie after another from this president to the American people. He's going to tell them how handsome he is, how nice his hair looks. And he's going to ignore all the challenges that people are facing while complimenting himself and saying that the American people just don't understand what's going on. Look, as we come together tonight, let's not forget about the high costs that are hurting families. How expensive food is for each and every one of you in this room. You know the difference between the truth and the bullshit. There's something that we can do about this in coming together and just tell the facts. I hope that that's what comes across tonight while holding this president accountable. And I certainly look forward to hearing from Governor Abigail Spanberger and from United States Senator Alex Padilla.
Thank you. Last but not least, Senator Gallego.
I always bring the rookie to be the cleanup hitter. First of all, thank you everyone for being here.
Has a 300 batting average.
I do. It gets you into the Hall of Fame. Look, what we're going to hear tonight is very simple. This president has made this country sicker and poorer. And if you look at every way that has occurred, it has been deliberative. Number one, what did this president do as soon as he got in? He went right after Medicaid and started cutting the most vulnerable people in this country. And I'm not talking just people in our urban areas. Rural Arizona. I traveled rural Arizona. I was talking to some of our hospital systems that are worried about how they're going to keep their systems open because they know now that this administration has abandoned them and they're going to have to make some really hard decisions. Will they keep their OB ward open? Will they keep their x-ray machines open? Will they have to shut down the emergency room? Why? Because this president wanted to make sure they had enough money to give the richest of the richest a tax cut. And what was left over to that, they used to supercharge this massive, massive deportation policy that is racially profiling people, pulling over Americans, violating their Fourth Amendment rights, and killing Americans in the streets. That is what this president started with. And let's move on forward there. How much sicker can you get? When we all had an agreement, we all said, yes, healthcare costs are expensive. We all understand that things can be better. But the last thing we should do is pull the rug out from millions of Americans that rely on these healthcare subsidies. And now we have millions of Americans that are making a hard choice between, shall I buy health insurance for my family or should I just risk it and keep going? That president and his Republicans made that choice. There are millions of Americans right now that are suffering. Either having to pay more and now they're poorer, or they're not getting health insurance and now they're sicker. That was a decision by this administration. And every day they're making a decision that makes things harder and harder. We all talk about grocery prices. Let me tell you about grocery prices. I have 3 kids, all under the age of 10. I have to feed those kids, and it is expensive. Thank God I get a good salary, but I cannot imagine how someone like my mom, raising 4 kids on her own, can deal with these grocery prices every day. And then this president just treats the tariffs as if it's his little toy that he can manipulate his friends, bring down some bribes for the corruption that he keeps on doing, and everyday Americans are paying it. And guess what? Supreme Court just said you can't do it. Where is the refund that's going to come for these Americans? The average American paid $1,000 to $1,200 last year because of these tariffs. Are they getting the refund? No. The big corporations are going to get it. They're going to get it. But where is that family going to get that relief? It's not coming. It's not coming because this president does not care about working class people at all. And he is going to continue to make us sicker and poorer. And that's just what you're going to hear tonight. Thank you.
His batting average just went up higher.
Slugging percentage.
Slugging. Yes.
A significant number of members of your caucus are not attending the State of the Union. Are you disappointed by that? Have you urged members to attend?
No, I think it's up to each member to make his or her choice. And some are coming and some are going and some are not.
Do you think protests are possible?
Yes. Go ahead, ma'am.
So you said you're not going to negotiate in public on the DHS funding situation.
Mm-hmm.
If the president does bring up that during the speech tonight, will that change your calculations?
Well, it depends what he says. I mean, so far, they have not budged on the key issues like masks, like warrants, like oversight from state authorities. It depends what he says. So far, we've heard crickets from them. Nothing. They're not negotiating. They're just trying to pass paper back and forth with no real changes. Yes.
Mr. Schumer, I understand you're
Yes.
discuss Iran. What questions are you going to ask and what message do you have to
Well,
give?
first and foremost, if they want to do something in Iran, and who the hell knows what it is, they should make it public and discuss it with the public and not keep it in secret. When you do these military operations in secret, it always causes longer wars, tragedy, more expenses, and mistake. Okay? Last one.
Sure, thank you. Tomorrow, big hearing for the Surgeon General nominee. What do you make of that nominee? And what do you make of the health policy of the Trump administration?
Well, I'm going to wait for the hearing, but his nominees thus far have been really bad, and this one seems to be the same way. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Good job.
All right, 3:05.